بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Chapter 6, Explanation of Tawheed and the Testification La ilaha illallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. Before we go to the food, and I know that everybody's waiting for the food, just like myself as well, this is the walima, and the walima should be fulfilled. So fulfilling the walima invitation, it has to be fulfilled. It's a compulsory upon the person unless there is a genuine reason that he can attend. So before the food comes, we will start with our book, Kitab Tawheed, chapter number 6, according to our numbering. And the chapter now is the tafsir, the interpretation of the monotheism, Tawheed, and the testimony, the kalima, that is, Allah ilaha illallah, there is no God worthy of worship except for Allah alone. So this chapter is actually a chapter to explain the Tawheed that the author had started, talking about its compulsion, talking about its virtues, talking about calling to that. So what is that Tawheed which is compulsory upon us? What is the Tawheed that has all these virtues that we have discussed before? What is that Tawheed that we're supposed to call the people to? So this is a interpretation and more interpretation of the Tawheed, because there was some interpretation before, but this is to clarify the Tawheed. And he, in this chapter, the author, made as well from the Tawheed is that we should not call onto the prophets and the righteous, because it will oppose and contradict the meaning of the Shahada, the testimony. So this is why he brought this chapter to follow the previous chapters in order to interpret the Tawheed. When there is a footnote, please read it now.
The title has a footnote. The explanation of Tawheed is undoubtedly connected to two matters. One, declaring oneself innocent from every other deity than Allah Azza wa Jal and disbelieving in other than Him. Two, affirmation of divinity, i.e. the right to be worshipped for Allah alone.
Right. So basically he's just giving the interpretation of what is going to be coming now in a minute. That the monotheism, the Shahada, it has two parts. Part which is the negation, Ashhadu an la ilaha, and the second part, the confirmation or the affirmation, which is illallah. There is no way that you will be a monotheistic, worshipping Allah, except that if you declare clearly that you have no association to any false gods, and all these gods have been worshipped beside Allah, they are not worshipped with haqq, they are false worshipping. And then after that you are only a worshipper and a true worshipper to Allah. So there is negation and there is affirmation. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Now.
And the saying of Allah the Most High, translating into English, those whom they call upon desire for themselves means of access to their Lord Allah, as to which of them should be the nearest.
And Surah Al-Isra, verse 57, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ يَبْتَغُونَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمُ الْوَسِيلَةَ أَيُّهُمْ أَقْرَبُ. Is there a footnote before I start?
Not for that.
Not for that. Right, this is the first verse that the Imam Muhammad Wahab brings in the chapter title. So he says, those whom the people who are committing shirk, they are those who they're calling upon. So those who are committing shirk, they're calling upon. Calling upon, yad'un, that means they are asking them. And usually is the ask of things, of matters. But also it includes the asking, that means a supplication for worship. So those are the ones who are from the kuffar. They're asking those, like the righteous, or the prophets, or the angels. They're asking them what's supposed to be asked from Allah. Like when a person, for example, he asked Ali ibn Abi Talib to do things in the moments of, for example, of need. And this is what the Rafidah they do. They call upon Hussein, call upon Ali, oh Ali, cure me, oh Hussein, help me, all of that. Or like the most people who are from the Sufis who call upon the Prophet ﷺ, and in poetry in that, they ask the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to give them something that only Allah can give them. So this is the supplication which we call it du'a mas'al, that is asking for matters which is to do with the dunya. But also there's a du'a al-ibadah, which is the supplication which means worship. That is the one who is now supplicating to the one who is not God, and that is in a way which is to get closer to him, by vowing to him, by making sujood or ruku' to him. So those, the kuffar, when they do this, or the mushrikun, or even the Muslim, if he does this to the prophets or the angels or the righteous, so Allah is saying that those are the one you're calling, they themselves are trying to get an access to get closer to Allah, and they see which one is the closest that will get them closer to Allah. So how can you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to them, call upon someone who is himself in need, someone who himself is calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's actually seeking access and seeking a way through which that he will get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the link between this verse and the chapter title, which is the interpretation of La ilaha illallah, is actually to dissociate yourself from the shirk totally. So you don't call with Allah anyone, not even an angel or a prophet or a righteous person. For verily those are the ones who are calling the prophets and the angels and the righteous people. They are not dissociating themselves from the shirk, but actually they are in it. So how can you call upon someone who is himself is in need? The angels are in need, the prophets are in need, the righteous people are in need. So they are not self-sufficient. They are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can they suffice you if they are not themselves? They cannot suffice themselves. Right. The second verse.
And he is saying, and when Ibrahim said to his father and his people, verily I am innocent of what you worship except him who did create me.
Right. Before I go ahead with explaining this second verse, also Allah says in Surah Fatir, verse 13 to 14, and Allah says to explaining exactly what is meant in the ayah in Surah Al-Isra 57, وَالَّذِينَ تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ مَا يَمْلِكُونَ مِن قِطْمِيرٍ. The ones who you're calling upon beside Allah, that is, they don't even own a qitmir, even something which is little. They can't. The reality of the ownership is for Allah. إِن تَدْعُوهُمْ, if you call upon them, لَا يَسْمَعُوا دُعَاءَكُمْ, they will not hear you call. وَلَوْ سَمِعُوا, if they heard it with their own ears, مَا اسْتَجَابُوا لَكُمْ, they will not respond to you. يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكْفُرُونَ بِشِرْكِكُمْ, and on the day of resurrection, they will dissociate themselves. Those are the ones you called upon. They will say, we've got nothing to do with you. They will dissociate themselves from what you have done, which is the shirk. That is, associating them beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يُنَبِّئُكَ مِثْلُ خَبِيرٍ, and only subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will be telling you about this. So the second verse, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ, Ibrahim alayhi salam كَانَ أُمَّةً قَانِتًا, the one who had fought his people. If his people, some they used to worship idol, and some of his people used to worship the stars. So they were Abrat al-Kawakib and Abrat al-Asnam. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he had set an example for us, how he had negotiated and dealt with the situation. Especially he had a father who's called Azar. His name is Azar, not Tarih, his name is Azar, that's the correct name for him. He was upon the shirk. So he had to fight not only the people, but also his own or closest relative to him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us about what Ibrahim said to his father. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ, Surah Al-Zukhruf, verse 36. وَقَوْلِ, and behold, Ibrahim alayhi salam said to his father and his people, إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ مِّمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ, I've got nothing to do with what you are worshipping. إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي, except the one who had فَطَرَني. فَطَرَني means خَلَقَني, the ones who had created me. And here this is a very special verse, a special, I would say, eloquent speech from Ibrahim alayhi salam, in which he had made the same interpretation of La ilaha illallah, because there is affirmation and association. He started with the the negation. He said, إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ, I have got nothing to do. That is, أَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ. I've got nothing to do with what you worship beside Allah. And then the affirmation, which is أَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. He said, إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي, except for the one who have فَطَرَنِي. فَطَرَنِي, he created me. Allahu Akbar. When he says, إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ, bara is, I've got nothing. It's not just I just disbelieve, but also I've got nothing to do that. I am getting as far as I can from what you believe. And إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي here, الَّذِي فَطَرَني, the one who had created me. And in this there is two benefits that we could gain. Benefit number one, that is to point to the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's singling him out in the worship. So that will point to him, because he is the one being singled with the creation. Nobody can create. The real creation is from Allah. So he said, إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. And number two, the second benefit, is that to point out to the false worship of the idols and the statues which have no power to create. So إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي, it will indicate that Allah is the one who is the real creator. And number two, that those idols and those statues, they don't create beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we find, as Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah he says in his interpretation, he said, we find in some of the Muslim countries, and I found myself, and I saw it, who prays and he just gives zakah and even make hajj, and on top of that he fasts Ramadan, yet they go to the graves, they prostrate to the graves, they make ruku to the graves, even though they are doing whatever they're doing from their ibadah, they are kuffar. They are not monotheistic, and nothing from the deeds will be accepted. So they are from the ones who are upon the most dangerous things from the Islamic nations. Why? Because they are doing shirk without them knowing about it. They think they are actually doing well. So this is an ignorance on their part, and also it is falling short on behalf of the scholars of theirs, because their scholars should really direct them and tell them, instead of they are actually pointing out the political issues, and all they are caring about is how to gain the leadership, instead of clearing them from the shirk, as we have seen from the da'wah and the methodology of so many partisans. I'll give you an example. Hassan al-Banna, who is the leader of Ikhwan al-Muslimin, who had, mashallah, brought lots of people out of the cinemas and brought them from seeing TVs and everything, but he used to give them speeches which is all of it to do with politics and uniting themselves. And his speeches were next to the place where Sitt Zainab, which is a shrine being made for Zainab, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. Yet he never spoke a word regarding this issue, because he doesn't want to lose his supporters. And this is on the expense of his worship. So instead of telling the people and enlightening them that what you're doing there is shirk, he was not caring about that. He was just caring about verily how to unite ourselves and have one vote and get the khilafah, or get the leadership, or take the leadership from the people. And that is not the Prophet ﷺ's job, what he has done in Mecca. Right, so here we say that the person who's a layman, he will only take from his scholar, and we need scholars who address this issue. We need scholars who talk about Tawheed, because with Tawheed we'll have stability to the country. Is the food come? Has the food come here, Sheikh Arif?
Yes.
Shall we stop? Or?
Yeah, inshallah, yeah.
Okay, we'll stop inshallah and hold. But we'll not hold our stomachs. He could go to the food. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. As we've been discussing the verse, which is verse number 2, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ مِّمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. And also we benefit, as we have added to what we have said, we also benefit from this ayah, that the Tawheed will not be achieved if the person had worshipped Allah and along with him others as well. So there is a condition there that the Tawheed will be accepted, is that to make it sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The people, according to Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen and the scholars, they say that the people regarding Tawheed the three categories. One which will worship Allah alone, and that's the one which gets salvation. One which worships others on their own, and that's the atheists, and the others who are not really worshipping Allah at all. And others will worship Allah along with Him, they worship others as well. They are the mushrikun. So the first one is the only one which are muwahhidun and monotheistic. The third verse.
And he's saying the Jews and Christians took their rabbis and monks to be their lords besides Allah.
اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله. In Surah At-Tawbah. And والمسيح ابن مريم وما أمروا to the end of the verse. This ayah will be discussed later on in its own in a chapter, and we will be talking about it. We'll be talking about hadith of Adi ibn Hatim radiallahu anhu, because this ayah was recited by the Prophet in front of Hatim ibn Adi, and he was a Christian himself, and the ayah says, verily those Christians and Jews had taken their rabbis and their priests to be God beside Allah, and also the Messiah, the son of Maryam. So he said, verily, Messenger of Allah, we did not worship them. We did not worship them, those rabbis and those Christians, those priests. He said, didn't you make halal what they made halal for you? He said, yes. Didn't you make haram what they made haram for you? He said, yes. He said, then this is the worship, which we call it shirk al-ta'a, the worship in obedience, in obeying. So, the ayah says that those people, they were not commanded to worship their priests and the rabbis, but only to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, liya'budu, so that they, with humility, worship Allah alone, the one who had created the Messiah, who created the priests and created the rabbis, and He created heavens and earth. La ilaha illahu. إذن إلا ليعبدوا إله واحدا لا إله إلا. There is no God worthy of worship except for Him, subhanahu, absolving Allah, absolving Him from anything which is shirk. So this ayah is basically another interpretation of the testimony that the author had started with his chapter, which is Shahadatu an la ilaha illallah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah had denied upon those who had taken their priests and rabbis to be gods beside Allah. So this ayah will have, as I said, an explanation later on in the chapter on its own. So those people that made the ahbar and the rabbis to be shuraka, partners in the worship, partners in the obedience. So whenever those priests or rabbis order them to worship or to make halal or haram, they will follow it regardless whether this will synchronize with Allah's command or not. They will follow their priest and rabbi. So Tawheed also will, in means of, which is the meaning of La ilaha illallah, it means that your obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be on His own, not to obey Allah and obey others as well. And we're going to be talking, inshallah, when we talk about the matters, explain a bit more regarding this. So you only obey the leader if he commands you to do good things or to do something which would Allah be pleased with. Now, the other ayah.
And he's saying, and of mankind are some who take others besides Allah as rivals. They love them as they love Allah.
And another ayah was an interpretation of La ilaha illallah. He's saying from the people. From the people, that means those people who are not monotheistic, those people who are not following the right thing. They would take beside Allah andada. Andada means rivals. And nid, the one who is looking like Prophet. And that is why when the Prophet ﷺ, he had heard this man saying to him when he was making a speech, MashaAllah wa shayt, if Allah wills and you will as well, said, أَجَعَلْتَنِي لِلَّهِ نِدًّا. Are you making me equal to God? قُلْ مَشَاءَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ. Say that if Allah wills on His own. Then he says, يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. They love them, they love these ones whom they worship, like they love Allah. Now, like they love Allah is a two interpretation for us. They love them like they love Allah. That's the interpretation which is being translated in there. And the other interpretation, they love them just like the believers love Allah. But the first interpretation, which was the translation there, is more closer to what we believe is the correct interpretation. That is because of the following verse, because when it says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. And then Allah says after this, and verily the believers are more of love to their Lord. So if the interpretation which we chose is to be the correct one, so the ayah will be saying, and some of the people whom they take rivals beside Allah, they love them just like they love Allah, but actually the believers, they love Allah more than those people who are idolaters love Allah. Whereas the other interpretation, which says that from the people who worship other than Allah, take them as rivals with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they love those rivals like the believers love Allah. And then Allah says, but the believers, they love Allah more than those people who they love their idols. You understand that? The second interpretation, I'm going to say it again, that from the people who take rivals with Allah, they love them like the believers love Allah, but the believers love Allah more than these people love their idols. And that's the two interpretations, as I said, which are valid, but the first one is more sound. So this is how these people, they love other than Allah more or equal to the love of Allah. So what about if a person who loves other than Allah and he does not love Allah? Subhanallah. And this is even worse. And we have so many people who are attributing themselves to the Muslims, who they're loving their awliya, their close awliya, close friends, they call them awliya, more than they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I have seen with my own eyes, when the person was asked to make an oath by Allah, he would make an oath by Allah regardless whether he is lying or is saying the truth. But when you tell him, make an oath by your wali, the one you believe that he is your savior, the Ghawth or the Qutb, he will only make an oath if he's a truthful person. So he's taking the wali is closer to Allah or more to be I could say approached than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those people, as I said, they love their awliya. If they don't love them as much as Allah, they love them more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Shaykh he says that so many people of them, they come to Mecca and Medina, and they deem or they see that the visiting of the grave of the Prophet is more of a reward than visiting the Mecca, the Kaaba itself, because they find in themselves more love to the Prophet than they find more love to Allah subhanallah. And we only love the Prophet of Allah because of our love Allah. So if it hadn't been that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to love the Prophet, we would not love the Prophet. So it is not the love of the Prophet supposed to be more than the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will never love the Prophet of Allah if he wasn't our Prophet. He would be just son of Abdullah, a normal person, Muhammad ibn Abdullah. So because we love him, because he is the messenger of the Lord. We love him because Allah, he said, you have to love the Prophet in order to love me. Because Allah commanded us to do that. So this ayah is a test for those who make in their hearts from the Muslims that Allah, other than Allah, in the love is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have also more people which they love things not as a worship more than they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without them knowing. The ones who love, for example, the money, the position, they love the things of the dunya. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ had talked about. Ta'isa abdul dinar, disgrace and a loser, the person who's the worship of the dinar. Ta'isa abdul khamisa, ta'isa abdul qatifa, ta'isa wantakas, wa idha shika lan taqash. That is, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, he's a loser, and if he's been to be pricked by a thorn, may Allah make him not to be saved from that. So this is a person who is always, his heart is preoccupied by the love of the dunya and the possessions and all of that. So it's a type of ibadah. And if the person makes an accounting for himself why he was created, then he will know that he was created for a greater and a precious, more precious value and target and goal and purpose than the purpose of collecting money and making more houses and cars and so on and so forth. So, this is as well a call upon us to, at the end of this year, which is the year of 1417, the beginning of this year, which is the year of 1438, to ponder and see what we have done and what we should have done, and we haven't done it, and to as well attach ourselves to the symbols of Islam. One of them is to attach ourselves to the Hijri date, and it's very important, especially, and so many of you had heard the dilemma and the crisis, and I call it the big turning point, that United Kingdom of Saudi Arabia had adopted Christian date, if you didn't know that, 3 days ago, and that was really shocking, and we forgot to speak about it on Monday. For verily, we know that the only Muslim country who regard the Islamic date is to be a great thing was Saudi Arabia. And now we have that the Saudi Arabia adopted of paying the salaries in the companies and even in government institution. They adopted the solar system. And of course the solar system is along with the Christian date, which is the 2016 and all of that. And it was a major news for that. And you know that when we talk about Ashura, we should not be following the Jews by, and we should not be as well imitating them by fighting the 9th, which is Monday, along with Ashura. But we look at the Jews, they don't really fast Ashura. And their Ashura is in their Talmud. In their Talmud, they talk about the greatness of that day, but yet none of the Jews, we don't see the Jews fasting on that day. The reason behind this, they lost the day. They don't know when is the day of Ashura, because they adopted system which is different from the system that they usually used to adopt, which is the lunar system. Once they adopted that, and it's only the Jews who care about their date, that's why it was easy for them, for the generation later on, to know, they don't know when is the Ashura. They forgot it. And that's, as I said, a turning point. So what's going to happen to the Jews is going to happen to us. So, now maybe it's not going to be maybe the case, going to forget about, for example, the day of Ashura, but wait 10 years or something, and the generation will not know when is Ashura, when is the midday of Sha'ban. First thing will go the midnight of Sha'ban. You're not going to know about midnight of Sha'ban. It's going to go. And the last thing will be Ramadan. You don't know which Ramadan is. Because as I said, Islamic dates, now we have to teach our children to adopt it, tell them that this is the Islamic date. This is what we should be adopting as much as we can, because we can't run away from our environment. Funnily enough to say that the ones who have complained in Saudi Arabia regarding the adoption of the Christian date or the solar system are the workers. It's not because from an Islamic point of view, because they're going to lose 11 days in the year. Islamic year is 354, whereas the Gregorian year solar year is 364 and a quarter, which means they're going to lose at least 10 and maximum 11 days, and that's why they complain. So they want a compensation for that. It's nothing to do with complaint because of the adaptation of this non-Islamic date. Allahu Musta'an. You know, imagine a European country, a non-Muslim country, adopting the Islamic date. What's going to happen? Imagine. It's not going to be happening, but I'm just saying. And the non-Muslim country, the European country, is going to adopt Islamic date. What's going to happen? They're not going to stop talking about that. It's being radicalized. It's becoming radicalized. That's the word. So, what is Saudi Arabia happened to them? They're being westernized. Now, Allah understand. Right. The love in this verse, which has been mentioned, has types. Do you have any footnote there? We don't have footnote. Alhamdulillah. Right. The love has types. First type is the love to Allah. And this will not contradict, of course, the Tawheed, but actually it will complete it. And the Prophet of Allah, he said, the strongest of all knots in Iman, the love in Allah and the hate in the sake of Allah. And the love in Allah, that is to love the thing, you only love it for the sake of Allah. So whether it is a deed or whether it's a person, and this is from the completion of Tawheed. The second type of love is the natural love, which is the person who loves his father, his mother, he loves his wife, he loves his money. And when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, who is the most beloved person to you? He said, Aisha. From the men, Messenger of Allah, he said, her father. And of course, the love of the food and the drink. And the third type is the love with Allah, which is the one that opposes the Tawheed. And that is the love of other than Allah, it will be equal or more than the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we have something that would, if for example, the love of Allah opposes or contradicts the love of other than Allah, he will give precedence to the love of other than Allah. A'udhu billah, that is the shirk that the whole chapter is all about. So, going now to the hadith in Sahih al-Imam Muslim.
The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever says La ilaha illallah and disbelieves in whatever is worshipped besides Allah, his wealth and blood become sacred and his reckoning is with Allah, the mighty and majestic. There's a footnote.
Go on.
And in his ﷺ saying, and disbelievers in whatever is worshipped besides Allah, is evidence that it is not sufficient to only say La ilaha illallah, but undoubtedly that they must disbelieve in the worship of whoever is worshipped other than Allah. For example, whoever says La ilaha illallah and thinks that the Jews and Christians of today are upon a correct religion, then he is not a Muslim.
I don't know why he sort of pick and choose to try, give footnotes to whatever he likes. So I'm not really sure about this. He left a lot of interpretation which he did not give a footnote, and then just concentrated on what she had nothing to say regarding that issue. But anyway, I'm going to take it on a good opinion of that person who translated it. I would say that yes, the hadith talks about he who says La ilaha illallah and also he kafar, disbelieved of what is being worshipped beside Allah, then he becomes a Muslim. That is, his blood and his money becomes lawful. That means unlawful to touch. You're not allowed to touch it. And his account is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're not allowed to, for example, judge him because of what he does. If he believes in Allah, he says La ilaha illallah, and disbelieves in what is worshipped beside Allah. So he's giving an example, Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah. It's not enough to say La ilaha illallah, but you have to disbelieve in all worship, the false worship, beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, he who says La ilaha illallah says, and he sees, for example, Christian, Jews, Hindus, any other non-Muslim religion, to be, for example, that is a correct religion, and they have the right to do that. They have the right, I'm talking about as in choice, but they have the right as in correct. It's the correct belief for them, because the person is having the choice whether they want to believe in this one, you want to believe, you're going to believe. You want to disbelieve in Allah, disbelieve in Allah. But to believe that disbelief in Allah is a correct religion, then you're not a Muslim. Okay, so you're not a Muslim. And we have, unfortunately, that some people who are making this called getting close to the religion, what do you call that? Approaching the religion approach. They're making the religion to uniting between the religions. And they have to compromise lots of things in the Aqidah, of Deen. So we do have the thing to say to the people, you have the right to believe whatever you like. But as well, from my part of freedom, that I'm allowed to say that whatever you're doing, either the wrong or right, that's mine. And you say the same thing about me. Okay, so I believe that what you believe is not, according to my religion, not right. But you have the right to do whatever you like. You have the right to do whatever you like. But I, for myself, I have the right for myself to believe. I'm not going to go on next to your ear and say to you, your belief is incorrect. I'm not going to shout at that. I'm not going to go to your house and, you're a kafir. I'm not going to do that. Okay? But I have the right. Okay? If being asked, is Christianity correct? I say, no, it's not correct. Is Judaism correct? It's not correct. Is it allowed to kill the Christian? I would say no. Are allowed to kill Jews? I said no. Who said that? But it's not correct. Homosexuality is correct? It's not correct. This is my freedom to say that. Okay? So you say about me, okay, something which is not correct. You could say that my deen is not correct. But if you say to me about me, I'm terrorist, is this correct? That's not a fact, is it? You're lying about me. Okay, you're not lying about me. So if I said, for example, to the person who's a Christian, you're a Christian plus you are, for example, a homosexual. I'm lying about it. I can't say that. I can't say, you Christianity make, for example, you Christian, you make homosexuality or to be right. That's not right. That's a false statement. That's not right. Because I know for a fact that the Christian in their Bible, they talk about the sodomy that they used to do with homosexuality. So I can't fabricate lies against somebody. But I've got the right to say that whatever you believe in is your right, but I don't believe in that. When I say I don't believe in that, that means I'm saying it's incorrect. If you don't respect that you have the right to do that, it's incorrect for me. Okay? Just like you say to me as well, your religion as well restrict your mind to something like this, and you're incorrect. You have the title, you have the right to do that. Inshallah, on the day of resurrection, there will be a judgment there. Who's going to be the correct and who's going to be the wrong. And my responsibility is to tell you about my religion in the best of preaching. And you are the one having to decide whether to follow or not. So those who say about the religions are to be thoughts. No, religion are not thoughts. Our religion are thought. Religion is the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm talking about the Muslims who say that. The non-Muslim, they could say whatever they want. It's up to them. So when they say al-fikr al-Islami, well, al-fikr, Islamic thoughts, not attacking Islamic thoughts. Islamic Sharia, ya akhi. It's coming from Allah and His Messenger. From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He told His Messenger what to say to us. Now coming to the issues. Issue number 1. Have you finished everything there? Yeah. Issue, there's no numbering for those issues. It says here in these issues, from the greatest of all issues and the most important amongst them is the interpretation of the Tawheed, which is the chapter title. Interpretation of the Shahada, the Kalima, Shahada la ilaha illallah. Also the author had interpreted and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made it very clear to us. So this Tawheed has to have 2 things. 1, negation of any false God, and then number 2, affirmation of the worshipping to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here he's giving an example, Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, how the negation is important. If you, for example, said, Zaydun is standing up. Yes, you have confirmed and affirmed that Zayd is standing up. Zayd is a name. Zayd is standing up. But you did not actually, in that statement, establish the fact that maybe another person is standing up as well. Do you understand me? So if you said Zayd is standing up, it's okay standing up, but you did not negate that other people may be standing up as well. But if you said there's no one standing up except for Zayd, then you know that everybody is not standing up except for Zayd. So when we say there is no God except there is God, I believe in Allah. Okay, but you did not negate those who say there is another God beside Allah. So I have to say there is no God worthy of worship, because there are gods who are worshipped, but worthy of worship, rightly so, worship in the right manner, except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there has to be negation before we make the affirmation. And then he says, in it, the surah al-Ayat al-Isra, and in that ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made the refutation against the kuffar, the ones who call upon the righteous, and he said that this is the major shirk. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, Ud'uni astajib lakum. Call upon me and I will respond to you. Inna alladhina yastakbiruna an ibadati yasadkhuluna jahannama dakhil. The ones who are in pride to not to worship me, they will enter hellfire with humiliation. So here, call upon me, call and supplication is the ibadah, because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ad-du'a'u huwa al-ibadah. Supplication is the ibadah. And when you call upon a person, this dua is of 3 types. Type number 1, which is permissible. And that is, you call someone with something which is within his capability, as we have said that before. And this is not from the dua of worship, but actually from the things which are permissible. So if a person comes to you as a physician, said, help me to cure me, then he's asking something within your capability. Second type is that the person, he asks another person, whether he is alive or he's dead, something he's not able to do, except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we said that before. As he said, if you remember, I gave an example. If you come to a person and say to him, give me rain. Or make my child in the womb of the mother to be, for example, a male, make him female, or make them twins. This is shirk. And this is you making rival with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third type is that you are calling upon somebody who is dead and he does not respond. This is also shirk akbar. You're calling upon him because he's dead anyway. And also in the ayah that the author had brought, وَمِنْهَا آيَةُ بَرَاء, Surah Bara'ah, Surah Tawheed. In it, the people of the book have taken the rabbis and the priests as to be gods beside Allah. We're going to explain that as I said before. This is shirk in the ta'ah, shirk in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this shirk is actually more of the category of rububiyyah than the category of uluhiyyah. Rububiyyah means the lordship, not the uluhiyyah, which is the worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said, وَمَا اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَحُكْمُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Whatever you are differing regarding is you have to refer to Allah. So in this ayah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the Christians and the Jews taking the rabbis and priests beside gods beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is actually to do with that they are accepting those rabbis and priests to be the ones who settle the difference, which is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so the shirk in al-ta'a is from the major shirk, and yet we have details in that issue. First of all, we say shirk al-ta'a is of three types. Type number one, which is that the person, he accepts their sayings and he is displeased with what Allah had ruled. This is a kafir. So a person who had done this following shirk, which is an ta'a, which is pleased with what his rabbis and his priests and his scholars and his sheikh, his wali is saying, and he is displeased with Allah's rule. That's a kafir. Second type is that he is pleased with the rule of Allah, but he follows their sayings because of desires. So he is pleased and accepts the rules of Allah, but he follows their rule, okay, because of whims and desire. And that's a person who's rebellious, fasiq. So he knows Allah, this is haram, for example, to fornicate, but he follows those things of fornication for the sake of that whims and desire. And that's a fasiq. The third one, he follows those rulers, those shuyukh, or those muftis, or those judges and rabbis and priests, because of his ignorance, because he's an ignorant. Now, this one has detailed answer. If he's ignorant, then if he's capable of knowing the haqq and learning from the scholars, and he did not ask them, then he is a sinner. And if he did not have anybody to ask, okay, or he asked someone, but yet he gave him the wrong answer, then he has no sin. Verily his sin is upon that person. Again, so he would follow those people because he's ignorant. So, and he is of course pleased because he thinks, that whatever is the rule of their scholars are to be the rule of Allah. So if he was able to know the haqq and did not ask, then he's a sinner. And if he was not able to do that, or he was given the judgment which is wrongly, then his sin is upon the person who had given him the verdict. Then he says, وَمِنْهَا قَوْلُ الْخَلِيلِ إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ مِمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said, I've got nothing. Dissociate myself. I've got nothing free from what you worship, O people. And he said that to his father and his people, except for the one who created me. And also, he said in this bara'ah, that is to have muwalah, which is tafsir shahadat la ilaha illallah. That the interpretation of shahadat la ilaha illallah. Allah says, وَجَعَلَهَا كَلِمَةً بَاقِيَةً فِي عَقِبِهِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Allah made it in la ilaha illallah in his aqib, that means in his offsprings. And وَمِنْهَا آيَةُ الْبَقَرَةِ, Surah Baqarah, in the kuffar, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا هُمْ بِخَارِجِينَ مِنَ النَّارِ, and they're not going to get out of the fire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He had made the love is to be shirk. If He had loved something or someone other than Allah, the way that He loves Allah, so He would be making shirk in the love of Allah. So you have to have the love solely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one to be a participant in it or to share that love, even the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For had it been that he was not a messenger, that you will not worship him, we will not follow him, sorry, we will not love him, because unless we love him just like the normal believers, like we love the brothers, but the love to the Prophet has emerged from the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so then the author, he says, how about those people who love the rivals more than they love Allah? So he says here that the ones from the people in terms of love their Allah are of 4 categories. Category number 1, that they love Allah more than they love others, and this is Tawheed. Number 2, they love other than Allah like they love Allah, and this is shirk. Third category, they love other than Allah more loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is even worse. And the fourth category, that he loves he loves other than Allah, and there is nothing in his heart of love to Allah. And we could add a 5th category, which is even the worst of that. That is to love other than Allah, and he has hatred at the same time to Allah. And that is the maximum shirk. Then he says, he who says La ilaha illallah, and he disbelieves whatever has been worshipped by Allah, then his money and wealth and his blood will become inviolable, means that it's going to be sacred, cannot be touched, and his reckoning is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, then he says, and this is what clarifies the meaning of La ilaha illallah. Then he says that you have to disbelieve, not just to say La ilaha illallah, with anything which is shirk and kufr. So he who has been accepted in the Christian religion or the other than the Islam religion is to be a proper religion, then he's a kafir. Okay, so he's a kafir. So it's not enough to say that I say La ilaha illallah. It's not enough to say that. And I don't worship, for example, the idol Allat. No, you have to disbelieve in the worship of Allat. That you have to say that the worship of Allah is not haqq. So to say that I don't worship Allah, that means maybe you're not bothered or not really having to say anything regarding someone else who's worshipping Allah. So if you said, for example, I say La ilaha illallah and I don't believe that Jesus died upon the cross. I don't believe that I should be doing this, for example. Yeah, but that is not really enough, because you should say that this is wrong. It's not just I don't believe that I should be doing this, because that means you are not objecting on the people, not objectively, you are pleased or you are accepting of those people who are doing this. So you have to be careful about that. Right. After this, alhamdulillah, we have finished the chapter and we are ready to chapter 7 in next week. If you have any questions regarding what we have heard, I think next week is 8 o'clock, Isha. So inshallah we'll be after Isha straight away. Fadl.
So what advice you say to people who say, oh, you people are insensitive, talk about Tawheed too much, Tawheed, what do you talk about other issues? So what sort of advice would you give?
So this person is asking if we have been confronted by a person who's saying, you Salafis talk about Tawheed, Tawheed, Tawheed. I want to talk about something else. Before I answer this question, would you like to ask him what should we talk about, please? According to what you think. No, that person. I don't want you to ask. Jihad. Talk about Sufis? The Sufis started saying this. Okay, the Sufis have got nothing to do with jihad, by the way. The jihad is only waving their, shaking their head. Right, actually, the Prophet ﷺ, he's the one who is our teacher, and how he had taught the people at those days. The most important thing is Tawheed. Because if Tawheed is straight, then alhamdulillah, you don't have to worry. But if Tawheed is not straight, regardless whether you are truthful, you are a lovely person, you are a cuddly person, you are a charitable person, and all of that is not going to help you whatsoever. So the most important thing is the Tawheed. And the Prophet said, Rasul Amr al-Islam, the head of the matter is Tawheed and monotheism. The Prophet of Allah, when he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal, and he sent, remember, we just talked about it last week, isn't it? Or the week before, I don't remember. Last week. Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he sent Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. What did he say to them? Talk about sidq, talk about how to be nice and to be mannerable. What did he do? He said the first thing that you're going to go to, you're going to go to people about the book, the first thing you're going to call them, Shahadatu an la ilaha illallah. Tawheed. What did he say to Abi Talib when he sent him to go and, conquer and open Khaybar? He said, when you are inside, call them to la ilaha illallah. For verily, if one person is to be guided through you, then it is better for you than the whole, or the 100 camels, but the camels, the red camels, but it's actually better than anything it means. So, we'll say to that person, you have to learn, you have to learn how we can call, because we are people followers. We're not innovators. You want to innovate, it's up to you. So, it looks like this word's coming from somebody who's got some malice in his heart, a grudge goes against, or is ignorant, whether the two or this, whether this or that. He's ignorant, doesn't know, or he's got hatred towards the Salaf. He's been pumped up with those Wahhabism and all of that. By the way, we shouldn't be called Wahhabis, we should be called Muhammad if they want to call us, because it's called Muhammad, not Wahhab. He's not Wahhab, he's not his Wahhab, he's not his name Wahhab. He's Muhammad, the son of Abd al-Wahhab. So the Wahhabis, by the way, originated not from the Abd al-Wahhab. No. I hate Wahhabism, but this is not the Wahhabism that the ones of Abd al-Wahhab. And the history behind this. But anyway, that person, you should say to him, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're going to be standing before your Lord for whatever you say. For your ignorance. If you didn't know, that's a crisis. And if you didn't know, it's more crisis as well. Okay, more crisis. لا تدري فتلك مصيبة تدري فالمصيبة أعظم والله. So you say to him, you're going to die one day. You're going to be questioned. Tell him that, he'll be scared. You're going to be questioned about everything you have said. Well, that word, it could be enough to dip you to the hellfire. So why do you want to say things that you don't know about? Allahu musta'an. Now.
If somebody is that person working in the shop, and they go to pay for hard at the beginning of this time to seek the reward, but then they get distracted out of love for money. Distracted out of love for money to go back onto the shop and to make some sales, and then pay for on the end of this time. Would this be considered?
The question like this really, the people are not really following. It's a long story making. We only make the questions which are beneficial to the people. Your question basically is setting a scenario that it's not there. Do you understand me? And
if you chase money without love for it, without neglecting your wives, is this still loving up?
If you chase money, that means you love the money. The love of the money which is fitrah. Who amongst you hate money, please? Anybody who hates money? If you hate money, there's treatment in the hospitals. Because this is love. You have to love the money. Everybody loves the money. No, you say, I love to be poor. That's the Sufis' mentalities which are corrupted. And of course they're liars about that. Because we have a fitrah. The mentality of the Sufis, he hasn't had a wash for the last 4 months. That means he did not touch women. MashaAllah. I said, La hawla. Go to the hospital, brother. There's something wrong with him. He doesn't love women for 4 months. He didn't have intercourse with his wife for 4 months. For 4 months he didn't have wash for sexual defilement. You should be saying, oh, subhanallah. No, he's crazy. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is called Samarkandi, the Sufi. So, the love of the money is there. But the love that we should not be giving to the money is to give the money priority so much that we compromise our duties towards Allah, our duties towards the family, our duties towards the wife, our duties towards our brothers, our duties to everything. If he compromises, then the love of the money is getting now closer to be even as close as the love of Allah. But as I said, the money, as the Prophet said, إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْمَالُ لِلصَّلَاةِ, the money being made for the salah. You cannot establish an Islamic country without money. There's no such thing. You cannot establish an Islamic country without what? Money, you have to have money. You can't establish a proper da'wah without money. So, what did the Prophet ﷺ said? What did he say? Sorry, to Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu. He came to the Prophet ﷺ after he had embraced Islam. Messenger of Allah said to him, I'm going to get you now, send you to lead a squadron, an army. So you could win, and then Allah yughnimuka ghanima, give your spoils or booty, so that I will give you your portion. He said, Messenger of Allah, I did not follow you for that. I did not embrace Islam for that. So Prophet ﷺ is something to correct his approach. He said, Ya Amr, ni'ma al-malu salih li ghayri salih. Sound money is good for the sound person. The righteous money, the good money, halal money, is good for the good person. And that is why the people are for 4 categories. Remember? 2 are good and 2 are bad. 2 are good. 1, Allah has given him knowledge and He gave him the money. Rich. So he spent his money in the way that would please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another person who's got the knowledge but he's got no money. He looks at the person who's got the money and I wish, oh Lord, I've got the same money, that I will do the same thing. They've got the same reward. Whether he's got the money or not, he's got the same reward, because he had wished if he had the money, he would do the same thing. Another person, he has no knowledge, but he's got too much money, so he spends it and squanders it on the haram. So he's really sinner. Another person has got no knowledge and he's got no money. And he said, if you've got the money, I will do the same thing as that ignorant person. He'll squander it in haram. They are the same sinners as well. So alhamdulillah that we want the brothers to stay with what they're natural, but there's no harm for you to spend the money. There's no harm for you to use that money as much as you can. It's not on the expense of harming your family. Who is that companion who had said, verily, if I had a shop close to the masjid, next to the steps of the masjid, you come up, there's a shop. I could go to the shop and make such and such thousands of money. And then I spend it in the sake of Allah. Wallahi, I will not swap it for coming to the masjid and praying. So I don't like to be offered a shop where it's next to the masjid. I will not be wasting my prayer. Going to the shop, coming to the prayer. So my prayer is in full. But at the same time, as well, making money. And that money I'm not doing it in squandering. No, I'm spending it in charity, giving halal, 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 halal. I don't have to swap that for coming to the masjid and praying. I said, then why? You're making money halal, and you're spending it in halal, and you give it to charity. And plus on top of that, you are doing your prayer jama'ah in the masjid. He said, I don't want to be questioned on the day of resurrection. How did you get the money? How do you spend it? It's every penny that you spend and you get, you're going to be questioned for that. That's what he said. We call it ascetic. You know what's ascetic? Zahid fi dunya. Ascetic. He loves the dunya, but his love, he loves the money, but his love to Allah is so much that this becomes insignificant. His love is there, but it becomes insignificant. But don't you ever make your family suffer, have nothing to eat, and you say that I'm ascetic and I don't want, and I divorce the dunya. For the Prophet said, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ إِثْمًا أَنْ يُضَيَّعَ مَنْ يَقُوتُ. It's enough for the person to be a sinner who does not look after his family and provide his family because it's a duty upon him. Fadl. The people will forget about Ashura, forget about Sha'ban, Midnight, they're going to forget about Ramadan, they're going to forget about Hajj. Yes, they're going to forget about Hajj. And it's at the end of the time. Because at the end of the time, the house of Allah will not be made Hajj to. It could be one of the reasons that what? Reasons what? You're lost. Your Islamic date. You don't know who is Hajj. You know nothing. So there will be no Hajj. There will be the last thing, the Suwaykiyatayn. The one who's got the Suwaykiyatayn, which is the one who's got the 2 long legs. He's coming from Habash, from Africa there. A man coming all the way, nobody's stopping him. to go to dismantle the Kaaba stone by stone. What are the Muslims? They're not there. You're going to dismantle the Kaaba stone by stone until he gets the treasure. There's a treasure underneath it. So this man, he has nobody to stop him. That means what? What happened to the Muslims? Finished. No Arabs, no Muslims, very few. So our uncle, when the Saudi Arabian had sort of now adopted this state, I was not surprised, but I was shocked how fast it happened. I thought it was not going to happen in my era. Especially in the era of the king as well, so King Salman, who is, you could see that he's a religious person. This thing to happen, could be from the bitana, the confidence, when close to the king, who's really bad. Maybe it's to do with economical things, because of, the petrol price, the fuel prices are very low. So they want to do something about it. It's one of the reason they adopted this, is they say because of that. But I'm pretty sure that the scholars, they're not really approved of this. But at the same time, they will not tolerate for the people to hate their king. No way. They will not start talking to them, look at how this king and had changed adaptation. They will not do that. Because they will lead to more chaos, and it will lead to them invoking the people, and then later on making the people to go and fight their leader, and that's going to lead to chaos, corruption. So they will not do that, but as I said, they will not approve of such step. Allahumma musta'an. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring it back, inshallah. Now, khair inshallah. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka.